So, Mary, you are coming from Braywell Children, Africa, and you're doing a lot of job there. So, can you tell a little more about how's the context in Africa with the street children?
Yeah. So, as Braywell Children, we are working in East Africa, that is in Kenya and Tanzania, and the context is different because, first of all, we have children that are living full time on the streets, and we have the level of drug abuse, substance abuse is very high with the children as well as the parents, and also the levels of poverty and violence are also very high. So one of the things we are trying is to address the levels of violence at home and on the streets, and also the substance abuse with the children on the streets and also with the parents. And also one of the context that we are working with is the community perception towards children on the streets is very negative. Children on the streets are considered to be, they're not considered like normal children. They're seen as a problem. The way they are referred to, it's always in the negative way. And so trying even to address how the community views the children on the streets, to first view them as children like any other child. It's one of the challenges that we have. But also we work in a context where there is very minimal social assistance, that is government social support for families that are living in poverty. There's very little or sometimes no support for families. So they're struggling with poverty as well as struggling with violence.
So it's violence, drugs, poverty, and all kinds of abuse, and the community perspective with them.
Yeah.
And you are now you are implementing a Latin American model for that context. How is it come?
So it's initially it was challenging. I think the challenges started with our staff believing that they can actually implement the model in an African context, because also in our context there's a very culturally there's a very strong cultural attachment. So in terms of if you're going to play games in a family, the staff was saying, oh no, we can't play games with families, that can't happen in an African context.
Okay.
And so for the staff it was very strange for them to first believe they can actually play games in an African, tell a father or a mother to play games with their children. No, that doesn't happen in an African context. But over time, through support and training from Juconi, the staff have come to be first confident in actually that they can actually implement and apply some of the methodologies with the families, and it's working very well. It's worked very positively. We've had to look at games that are relevant in our context. Yeah. So for example, something like a fish pond is not relevant in our context. Yeah. So we've looked at games that culturally are relevant in our context, and we found that parents actually are enjoying playing games with their children. It's just that maybe before there was never that opportunity, or no one ever thought that that could happen, but it's actually happening. So it's been very positive. And also in terms of we've seen the level of retention of children at home is much higher. Before we were struggling with we were taking children home and then they were dropping back to the streets, because we were not addressing the issues at home. But now we've seen a higher retention rate. We are now at 80% retention rate. Okay,
that's so high.
Yeah, that's very good. So, and we are still, I think one of the challenges also we've had is that we don't have much resources. So we are trying to implement the model with the slightly less resources that maybe Juconi has, and but we've managed. And also we had to rely on drawing upon other organizations that are providing different services to families so that we can maximize support to our families. But so far it's been very good, and I think we are gaining much more confidence in being able to implement the model and actually share with other organizations in our context.
So you can do your own implementation, you have your own Africanish way of doing the things. And I was thinking, well, Juconi has 29 years doing this, so it's not something that you will do so quick. It will not take 29 years, but now that you're doing this, one challenge is the games, but what are the other kind of challenges that you have in there?
So I think another one is that of course we are doing it with a number of families, because again, in terms of resources, we have limited resources, and so we cannot really replicate the model with many families. But what we've done, we started with a pilot with just a few number of families to see how it's working, and we've proved that it's working. So we can actually share with donors and say, okay, we've done this and it's working. But so the main challenges is that the resources are limited, and also looking at as I said, we work in a context where there's very minimum social assistance to families. So in our context, we've had to provide economic support to families, because as much as we want to work on the therapeutic side of things, we also have to consider that this family also they are facing challenges with being able to take their children to school, being able to afford medical support. So we have to provide economical support for these families, and that also requires resources.
So you have to do more than this.
Yeah, we have to, and that's one of the things we are doing extra, that we are providing economic support to our families. So we provide business skills training and provide them grants for them to be able to do businesses so that they can support their children.
Okay, so the other thing is, I think it's a lot of work trying to implement, talking about context, talking about the cultural, the tradition, and the things that you are saying, cultural touch. So what are the meaningful learnings that you have from this implementation?
I think one of the things we've learned is that as much as in an African context, in our context, there's always the child seems like they don't have, they are to be seen and not to be heard. But when a parent hears a child is able to engage with their child, they really enjoy it, and they're very responsive. So as much as culturally is not normalized, but when it actually happens, the parents are very positive. And also one of the things we've learned is that the way we are working now, its benefits, we found like with children that are younger, they engage more with the model, they gain more than for a situation where they are teenagers, and so the young children seem to benefit more from the therapeutic way of working. As well as in our context, one of the things we've realized is that extended families are very important, because in an African context, a child belongs to the village. It doesn't belong just to the parents. So it's been very useful to working with not just the nuclear family, their biological family, but with the relatives. And so some of the children that we reintegrate, we may not reintegrate them to their biological parents, they may be reintegrated to their grandparents, and those are the people that we work with. But as well as being able to provide not just one kind of support, as I said, in our context, we are able to provide not just focus on the therapy, but also think about the livelihood. So being able to provide a more comprehensive support that addresses the poverty as well as the emotional side of things. That's
so it's like it's more complex than just going to the emotional way.
yeah.
And I was thinking, like a team. Do you learn something like a team? Because you're telling me about the how you working with the children. But as a team, do you have some change or some learning in that way?
I think as railway children, as the staff, I think staff have grown at different levels. There are staff that were quickly to take on the therapeutic way of working, but there are those that still had some doubts. But so we've grown at different levels. But I think now, with the evidence that we have, that actually children are staying more at home, so more people are convinced that this is the way we need to go and this is the best way to work. But also in terms of staff getting more empathy with each other, very supportive, especially in like when you're doing case analysis. Before, at the beginning, case analysis was a way of like telling each other you're not doing well, you know, you're failing, and telling staff each other what to do. But now the approach has shifted. Now it's more of we are doing this as a team, and it's more of supporting each other, not criticizing your way of working, but supporting each other. So I think as a team, it's even built more of a team closer, and being able to work together and recognizing that the work we are doing, it's not just me and my caseload, it's our caseload.
Yeah. So the child belongs to the village, the case belongs to the team.
To the team, yes. Yes.
Kind of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it something else that you want to say, or just for...
I think just we're just grateful to Juconi for... I think if it were not for Juconi, we'll still be working in our old model. But so for Juconi being very generous in sharing the model and being very patient with us with the trainings, and so we are very grateful that the support that Juconi has been able to provide for us, continuous support and the continuous training, because as you said, it's taken Juconi 29 years, and us, we are just starting, so we'll still need more support.
Wow, and you have a very open mind and a very open heart, so that's why the things happen. There's no way that this could be possible if you don't have this heart.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sandra.